Hi everyone, I'm Halen, the CEO and founder of ScaleMate. We are a boutique go-to-market agency that focuses exclusively on B2B SaaS sales. And here are my 11 rules for startups that I've acquired over the past 6 years of working for startups, advising to startups, and now having my own. So here's what I want to talk about in this video. This is 11 rules for startups that I've personally used over the last 6 years of working in startups, advising to them, and having my own business. Number one, no one cares about your product. Honestly, I see so many founders go through spending millions of dollars in some cases on product teams, engineering teams, and they have absolutely no idea how to sell it. No one cares unless you can sell it. Number two, build for one customer profile, ignore the rest. Now, a few nuances here which we can get into later, but typically building for one persona is better than building for multiple. Three, always hire for hunger, particularly in sales, over just talent. If someone's not hungry in a startup, they're not going to work, they're not going to be successful, generally speaking. Number four, kill the advisors. You need operators at the beginning. People who are going to get their hands dirty and not just dish out advice for, willy-nilly. Five, spend smarter. I see so many founders, it kind of links back to point one, just waste money on bullshit that doesn't matter at the beginning. Number six, aim for 60% conversions from a first call to a second call, or you need to seriously reconsider product, selling, ICP, could be a whole bunch of things, but you need to have a real think. Number seven, channels die. You need to adapt. So email, great example of this. We'll get into that later. 8, no B players. You really want to stay away from hiring B players if you can help it. A players only. We'll get into strategies of how to do that. 9, constantly reset your thinking. I am always reviewing, analyzing what I'm prioritizing all the time, every day, every week, sometimes by the hour. 10, choose your sales strategy wisely. This really depends on the startup, the space, the business. Again, we'll dive into it later. And 11, typical SaaS targets like a Salesforce quota if you worked there or something just doesn't work for early stage companies right at the beginning. There's no brand recognition. There's no inbound leads most of the time. So typical SaaS quotas don't work for salespeople at the early stages. Let's dive in. All right, so number one, no one cares about your product. It's really if you can sell it or not. I hear founders constantly say, hey, we're 2 months away from product launch, so we can't sell it yet. We'll start in 2 months. And it's like, okay, why wait? Usually deal cycles, depending on the average contract value, are 2, 3, 4, 6, 10 months, right? If you can't sell something, then no one cares that you've built it. This is particularly true of technical founders, and not a knock on technical founders, but they don't realize the sales process as in depth as obviously a salesperson or a business-minded founder. So if you have 2 months to a product launch, start having conversations now, demo the MVP, build a demo video, whatever it is. It doesn't need to be amazingly perfect and the dashboard looks great and all the analytics is there. You don't need that stuff, right? If you can sell, identify a pain point, get someone to believe in your product, then use that money and the revenue that you get from your first couple of deals to help fund the development of the product. Products can be built quickly now. There's engineers everywhere, right? Everything's more efficient. There's tools like Cursor to help with AI generated code. Things can happen fast. So your competition is only ever going to increase and it becomes more fierce. So your real moat, everyone talks about building a moat. VCs talk about building a moat all the time. Your real moat is really distribution these days. So depending on your startup, you need some differentiator in terms of distribution, whether that is a large network on YouTube, on LinkedIn that you can get the word out quickly, whether it's partnership models, whether it's direct selling, whether it's inbound and website signups, whatever it is, you need some level of differentiation on the distribution side as well as the product side. I think people heavily favor the product side versus the distribution, and I'm more on the distribution side, as you can tell by this commentary. Okay, rule number 2. So you want to build for one customer profile. You do not want to be something for everyone. You want to be very, very specific, and there's a few key reasons why. I think one of the main reasons a purchase decision doesn't happen with a B2B SaaS startup is people really don't know what you do. So it's not like we're selling a pen, to use the cliche example. We're selling something that's probably quite complex, especially if it's a new idea. So people have to grasp the concept first. You need to be able to explain your product to a 6-year-old, otherwise you probably can't sell it, right? So you want to focus on one customer profile. You want to be able to explain it very, very, very simply to that person, because otherwise they won't make a purchase decision. This also influences pretty much everything to do with messaging about your business, from the website to the campaign copy to how you write an email to any content you post, basically everything. If you can be very specific on industries, personas, job titles, functions, like relevant case studies, everything, when someone hits your website, when you talk to someone, it's just a different level. They resonate at a different level to if you're like, oh, we do this for this industry and this and this and this and this and this. You need to be very specific. Over time, you can expand your industries or functions or whatever it is that you need to expand to. But at the very, very start, pre-seed through to Series A, when you're kind of finding product market fit, you need to be as specific as possible. There is a lot of mental gymnastics that happens when you are defining a customer profile or making these tough decisions. If you go specific, right? One industry, one persona, maybe 2 or 3 personas, whatever it might be. That means you're cutting out the rest. You are cutting out the noise completely, which is fucking scary. I have to do it all the time. I, at one point, wanted to expand to B2B businesses in general versus just B2B SaaS, which is what my experience is in. And that's the industry that I know, basically. But I was like, you know what? Let's try just B2B businesses in general. Maybe we try legal firms, private equity, insurance, whatever. People that need email campaigns was kind of like my theory back then. Didn't give it a crazy shot, but I just can't talk to those people on that level. I understand the SaaS business. That's just the way it is. And then all my employees understand the SaaS business because of me, right? Because I tell them and educate them on that stuff. I don't know anything else. So being more specific is very scary at the beginning because you have to cut out the noise. But the payoff, if you get it right, is huge, and it's going to dictate basically everything you ever say about your business in public, on social media, on your website, campaigns, etc., and you're going to resonate at a deeper level with these prospects and solve real problems. Number 3, always hire for hunger, not raw talent. Now, I'm being a little bit facetious there. Obviously, you need talent. Especially in the early stages, you typically look to hire someone who has done this before, who's at least done the role before, preferably in a startup, because then you don't have to spend a whole bunch of time, whole bunch of money and resources on training. Particularly in sales though, hunger is very important. Drive, discipline, motivation, whatever we want to call it. I think discipline is the right word there. The question is, in the hiring process, how do you vet for hunger? If you ask someone, hey, do you work hard? In an interview, of course they're going to say yes. Like, you have to cut out the bullshit answers and really get drive of someone. Hard to do. I typically have a 3-stage interview process, and it can actually be more if it's a senior position. But I kind of reverse sell the business, if that makes sense. So I don't say it's a great place to work. I don't say we have a whole bunch of benefits. I don't say even the pay is amazing, right? I don't do that. We're a startup as well. We have to be pretty scrappy. I say it's going to be hard. You're going to learn a lot, and it'll be, if you're a junior person, kind of the bedrock of your career, because you're going to learn a lot. But it's going to be hard. You're going to have to work probably more than 40 hours a week, and it might be stressful, and there's ups and downs, and I kind of reverse sell it. That instantly cuts out quite a lot of people, which I find to be very useful. In sales specifically, a couple of questions I ask, which might be super basic, it seems like. What do you do on weekends? And then pause and just see how they answer that question. That's an interesting question. Once you've done 20, 30, 40 interviews, you start to see patterns of how people answer it. Even if you think they are I don't want to say lying, but embellishing. Oh, I work on the weekends, or Saturday mornings I do this, this, and this. Even if you think that, at least they have the wherewithal to give you a decent answer. Some people answer that question in a crazy way, and you instantly know like they're probably not going to be the right fit. Another basic question that I always ask, no matter what the position, no matter how senior they are, what's your 3 or 5 year plan, or insert a time frame here, whatever you've thought about. Again, if you don't have a solid answer there, I don't care how old you are. If you don't have something specific you're working towards, I don't want to hire you. If you don't have some sort of goal that's larger than, next week, then clearly that indicates, that is a good proxy to indicate that you don't prioritize career and work over whatever else you do. And that just doesn't make sense for a startup most of the time. All right, so this one really hits home for me. Kill the advisors and hire operators. At the very, very beginning, don't take everyone's advice. If you do that, you will probably fail. I'm just gonna say. No one's as invested in your business as you. It's kind of like the government and money. No one spends your money as well as you spend your money. That's why the government can waste money sometimes. There are a lot of advisors out there, and I see startups kind of fall into the trap of the $5,000 a month retainer for someone who's been in the industry before. Maybe they have a good background, a good pedigree, they've closed deals, they've done whatever it is. And that $5,000, $4,000 a month seems to be pretty standard. And what happens is there's no clear scope of work. There's no clear deliverable metric they need to hit. And they basically sit on Zoom calls and tell them what to do without any real evidence. That's what I've seen anyway, most of the time. So there's kind of that trap of like consultant. Then there's investors who are not time invested in the business. They might be money invested or cash invested. That's fine. Again, just be wary of that advice. They are not on the ground. They are not talking to customers. They are not talking to prospects. They're not in the sales process. They're not in the product and engineering meetings. They do not know your business as well as you. You can take their advice into consideration. Don't just blanket take their advice. If I took my mum's advice for everything she said about my business, I'd be not in business. Put it that way. So advisors, just be careful of them. You can hire consultants for certain things, but the trap of the $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month to give general advice where it doesn't really affect them at all, there's no consequence for them just blurting something out, be wary of that. What you really want to hire are operators. Now, operators meaning they're in the business, they can give advice, but typically it's based on real world evidence. So we were on this sales call, we heard this. That's interesting. I should let the founder know. Crunching numbers, product side of things, whatever it is, hire operators because they actually have context on the business, not just dishing out advice for free with zero consequence. So all of these, points or topics that I'm talking about kind of tie back into each other. So number one was no one cares about your product if you can't sell it, basically. So I see a lot of founders wasting money on product. I also see a lot of founders just wasting money in general. One of the biggest ones is on marketing right at the beginning. No one cares about things that are so vague, I don't even know what they mean, like a brand voice, for example, or a redesign of your color scheme or website. Especially, remember, my context is B2B software. No one gives a fuck about your brand voice. I honestly don't know what that means. Like I actually am very confused when I'm on these calls and see people pitching this stuff. I've seen founders waste a lot of money on things like that. What really matters, the real question is what matters at the beginning of starting a SaaS business, right? Yes, you need an MVP. Yes, you need a product. Obviously, you need something there. Selling is key. If you get traction and you're a funded startup, you get more traction, you go raise more money. Great, increases run rate. Hopefully, you sell so much that you don't need to raise any more money, or you need to raise less, or you do it on better terms and all that stuff. Selling is what matters. People get caught up in website redesigns, color schemes, brand voice, all the like tangential things around what gives me money. today, or more customers, acquisition. That's the important stuff. And then gear all of your resources towards that goal with a clear impact on that goal. Brand voice can arguably have an impact on that goal, but how do you measure it? I have no idea. No clue. I've seen people just waffle on calls about this stuff. Kind of annoys me because it's such, in my opinion, such a waste of resources. In B2B software, like, is color scheme that important? I don't think so. Is it nice to have a good color scheme? Sure. Great. What's really important? Investing in the right channels, selling, acquiring customers, figure out the rest later. You should be aiming for 60% conversions. And I don't mean 60% like closing. I mean 60% from the first call to the second call. So people introduce other stakeholders. They want a demo. They want something where they join a second call. Again, remember my context is B2B SaaS, typically subscriptions over 10 grand a year up to the 6-figure range. So this probably isn't relevant for something that's like 20 bucks a month or something like that. So I'm talking about 60% conversion from first call through to second call. It's crazy. When you've seen this happen, when you've seen 80% conversions to a demo, when you've seen 80% conversions to a stakeholder meeting where 6 people are on the call, 80%, when you've seen it, you know it's possible. So what does that tell me? Market timing's probably there. There's probably hype around the space or the product or the problem. The founder's great at selling or at least doing discovery from a first call. There's probably some level of thought behind the sales process, meaning from the first call, what's the hook to get them on the second call? And there's probably some level of sales acumen because not everyone, has that naturally if you haven't been in sales before. Do you know to book the second call on the first call? Like things like that. It tells me that there's some clear thought behind this, and that's obviously where I help and get involved. But 60% from first call to second call, if you're not getting this, you need to strongly reconsider product, the space, depending on how far along you are. Obviously, you can't just completely change your entire business. How you're running discovery calls, questions you're asking, and next steps. And the next steps one is one that I see that's completely overlooked. People are vague with the next step. You need to have a clear step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, however many stages there are in your sales process, and actually communicate that to the prospect. You have to draw them down the path to a close, not just wait for them to close by themselves. Sales and marketing channels change all the time. Some of them die, some of them are here for the long term, but you need to be ready to adapt and not just rely on one channel for acquiring customers and for letting people know about your business. The best and most relevant example of this is email. Email marketing has obviously been a topic for a long time. Millions of service providers, consultants, people, deliverability experts, etc., etc. That completely shifted in April 2024, I want to say. Around that time, June, there was a couple of releases. Google and Microsoft changed their spam identification rules. At the beginning, I thought it wasn't going to affect B2B because they weren't very clear with their rules and their disclosures. So I thought it wasn't going to affect B2B, i.e. not affect my business. I watched open rates go from 60% to 20% overnight. Bit of a shock, 3x decrease. I scrambled for about 6 to 9 months-ish, so, not too long ago now. We're talking about the present, basically. Trying to fix this problem. Everyone says different things. No one really knows the rules. It's like asking you, how does the Instagram algorithm work? No one knows. You're guessing. Everyone's still guessing. The deliverability email gurus and experts, which I used to be, are still saying the same things. I've seen it firsthand that email has significantly changed. Can it still work? Yes. Are you going to get the same results as we did 2, 3, 4 years ago? I'm strongly skeptical. A lot of my outreach now, pretty much all of it, has flipped to LinkedIn. I still do email because I don't want to be reliant on one channel. Channels die, you need to adapt, not completely shut them off. So LinkedIn gets 90% of my focus right now, I would say. Email's in the background. Still works. Obviously, warm stuff and follow-ups is always going to be email. I'm talking strictly cold outbound. I also think creators like myself are repurposing content for email marketing, and the strategy advice doesn't work anymore. If you go back and look at my content, I used to talk about email a lot, all the time. Personalization, best tactics, what's the best CTAs, all that stuff. I no longer talk about it because it's not a focus for me. LinkedIn is getting way better results. So I try to keep it honest, try to keep it authentic, try to keep it real. I'm on the ground every day learning this stuff and seeing the results. So channels die. You need to be ready to adapt. If I didn't adapt in that time, my business would have gone to shit, for example. So happy it didn't. You need to do the same. If you can help it, do not hire B players. I have fallen into this trap before where you go through an interview process. You might have a screening call, another screening call with someone else in the team. I do a case study, sometimes a presentation, depending on the role. And sometimes you just know that you shouldn't hire this person, but you're kind of desperate because you need people and you're overworked, especially as a founder. You're overworked, you're wearing 10 different hats, you just need someone to do something for you and take something off your plate. Trust me, I've been there 100%. It never works out. I've seen it where you hire someone and you just know they're wrong and they leave within 2 months because they are also desperate at that time. Maybe they're looking for a job, they don't have money, the bank account's going low, whatever the reason. You both kind of know it's a short-term thing. You're both just not saying anything. So if you can help it, I know it's very obvious advice, don't hire B players. The difference between an A player and a B player is like insane. An A player can come in and proactively take stuff off of your plate without you asking. It's like 5% of people are A players, if that. It's such a rare thing to find, but once you find it, I'm like, for me anyway, I'm willing to pay a lot more for that person or maybe hire them at the agreed upon rate and increase their pay pretty much straight away if I know that they're going to add that level of value to the business. It is night and day difference once you get an A player and you can just trust what they do. Like if you can give someone instruction, like one line of I need you to do this, and you can trust that it gets done, that is worth a lot of money. And hiring a B player, you cannot do that and almost need to turn into a micromanager, especially if they're quite a junior position. I think it's a little bit of a waste of time to hire B players, unfortunately. So you want to constantly reset your thinking. And when I say thinking, I really mean prioritization and lists. If you can prioritize the right things that are going to, and do it quickly, that are going to have the biggest impact, you basically can't fail if you master those three things. So reset your thinking, reset your priority list. I do this like once a day, once a week, once a month. Like I do it all the time. I'm constantly like, what can I work on that's going to have the biggest impact right now? An impact on what is usually sales. Like that's usually the number one thing. You can get caught down in busy work quite a lot. I have to get this bit of copy reviewed. I have to set up this automation. Oh, this Zapier thing is broken. Like you can get caught down easily. Sometimes you just need to reset, think about your long-term vision, and then align what you can do right now to that. It's hard, it's stressful, it's annoying, but you just have to do it. I try to instill this in my team as well. Like those three words are my words of 2025. Speed, impact, prioritize. The top three things that we talk about all the time. Then the question is like, how do you translate that into my world, which is client engagements, client management, automations, all that sort of stuff. So if you can master those three things, constantly reset your thinking and your priority list, then you'll be focusing on the right things at the right time. This is where I've actually updated my thinking quite significantly over the past 2 years roughly. So choose your sales strategy wisely. Again, my context is B2B SaaS startups. Broadly speaking, there are two types of B2B SaaS products. One is completely new idea that relies on a significant amount of education during the sales process. Two is the displacement sales methodology. There's already a system in place and you are taking a new approach to an old problem. So when you're choosing a sales strategy, you need to know which bucket, that you fall into. Are you a completely new idea, or are you a new idea to an old problem that people already understand? That is going to dictate how you sell, particularly in the first call. So on discovery, in the first bucket, new idea, completely brand new, have to educate the market. I actually think customer discovery is not as relevant as if you're in the second bucket. It's still important, but you can't ask questions about a problem that you're trying to solve if the person doesn't know the problem exists. You have to prompt them, educate them, provide case studies, provide guidance throughout the sales process to be able to demonstrate value. Not easy, obviously, like that's why this is a hard job. In the second bucket, that's where customer discovery and traditional kind of questioning and uncovering pain is super relevant. So you can ask like quantification questions, have they tried to solve the problem before, all that good stuff, right? The first bucket is actually where most of the startups I work with and my team works with fall into. Usually a completely new idea. You need to provide, well, this customer does this because of this reason. How does that manifest in your business? What does this look like in your company today? You need to provide like examples, stories. You need to tell a story. You need to really prompt them before they can even answer a question. Otherwise, you're just going to get blank looks during the discovery process. Down the funnel as well, you provide even more case studies, even more sort of storytelling, painting the picture. And obviously in every sales process, you need to build a return on investment. There needs to be a story around that so they actually understand what they're buying. And the final rule, this is particularly for sales as well, is normal SaaS targets just don't work in startups. So if you're coming from like a HubSpot background, a Salesforce background, a large SaaS company that has a lot of brand recognition, those targets are usually pretty big for starters. And second, they're just not realistic for a startup company. There's no brand recognition, there's no marketing, there's no inbound leads. It's like go and find deals, which is a much different thing than inbound coming your way. People know the brand already. It's very, very different. The impact of that is sales cycles are typically longer. So I tell founders, your expectations for a sales cycle or an average deal cycle, times it by 3 to be realistic and also overshooting. So then you're impressed when, we can do it in sort of 2x of your expectations. But times everything by 3 in business so your expectations are set kind of realistically at least. These traditional SaaS quotas for sales reps don't really work, in my opinion, in startups. I would rather hire an A player, right? Know they're good at their job and not let them figure it out by themselves. Obviously, it's kind of founder-led sales at this early stage, but know that there are factors outside of that person's control that are going to significantly affect their ability to hit their target. So setting realistic targets, understanding sales cycles are going to be a little bit longer than a traditional established SaaS business, and then having faith in your employees that you hire, that they're going to do a good job and they're going to help you grow the business over the long term, not just each quarter.